Oh, hey, what's going on out there? SpeedGaming land, it's another Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide Wednesday. And we got a 1v1 race for you tonight featuring Christopher Warkin versus Arusta in one of our Tournament of the Month events. And this tournament, we're doing the War of the Magi, where the flag sets are based around the Warring Triads, or Doom, Poltergeist, and Goddess, if you're familiar with the game. So, for Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide, it does randomize a ton of different stuff about Final Fantasy VI, or as some of you in North America might know it as Final Fantasy III. The items and chests and shops are randomized. The characters that you start off with and can recruit are randomized along with their abilities. The spells that are on Espers are randomized. The bosses are shuffled up so that we won't find repeat bosses, but they're not going to be where they normally are. The statues in this set of objectives, Doom, Poltergeist, and Goddess, are going to be shuffled amongst their original position inside of Kefka's Tower that is special for this particular flag set. And the goal for Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide Randomizer is to unlock and defeat Final Kefka. And as you see on the screen, in order to do that, we need to recruit 7 characters and find 9 Espers. Those are those numbers in gold at the bottom of your screen. We do start out with 3 random characters with random abilities, so that's the white numbers on the top of the icons there at the bottom of the screen. If we kill 4 dragons, we get auto haste and auto safe, which are 2 of the abilities that the Poltergeist statue, or as we affectionately know it in the Worlds Collide community, the Spicy Chicken has. So this flag set is crafted around the Poltergeist statue. So what does that mean? That means that we will not be able to learn any ice or lightning magic. So we are able to learn fire magic as well as Merton. The rewards that we will get from items and dead checks will be relics and a flame shield. So that'll be experience egg, Marvel shoes, Genji gloves, offering some of the best relics in the game there. Also, we do have a concept called a Kefka Tower skip, where you can go right to the statues at sort of the midpoint inside of Kefka's Tower and skip over one of the bosses that you have to fight. In order to do that, we need to get to 8 characters or 11 Espers or 21 checks. So we'll keep an eye out on that as we go along here. We're going to get our runner started in just a second. If you have any questions, just let me know in the chat as well. How Worlds Collide works is there aren't really any key items. I guess you can kind of think of the characters as the key items because they block off areas of the world. But we start with the airship. We can go anywhere, World of Balance or World of Ruin. However, the only places that we will be able to get rewards from are based on the characters that we have in our starting party. And obviously there is a logic through the seed that allows you to unlock all 14 characters, which means you can access every single part of the game. As we sort of get set up and have our runners out and going, I'll tell you what checks that we have access to. That's what we call the areas in the world. We call them checks. And they can reward you with either a new character or an Esper or one of those aforementioned high-tier items that I talked about before. There are a couple of other interesting objectives here. I mentioned the 4 dragons giving you the properties of the Poltergeist statue, but also if you win a Coliseum match, you get a Dragoon set. So what the heck is a Dragoon set? It's a pair of Dragoon boots that allows you to change fight into jump, a dragon horn that allows you to jump multiple times, and a high-tier spear, Aura Lance, Pearl Lance, or Partisan. So we'll probably see somebody at some point do a Coliseum match. Just to get one of those, because that is considered an end game build here. That's basically what we want to do. Yes, we have to kill the thing that's right in front of us, but also we have to fight Final Kefka at the end of the game, and Final Kefka fight is the same fight that it always is for all of our runners here. Additionally, how the game sort of works is since the bosses are shuffled up amongst their locations, the game doesn't do enemy scaling based on location like some other RPG randomizers do. Instead, we do it based on the number of checks or world events that our runners do. Every time you do a check, the enemy levels go up by 2.5. And since we start off with 0 checks, that means our enemies will default to basically level 2.5 or level 3. And every time we do a check, that number will go up and up. I do believe we have some objectives to go ahead and set that level just a little bit higher at the start. We'll see when it pops up. But I'm going to get the runners off and running here, and we can talk about where we can go in the world. All right, so Christopher Warkin and Arusta are veterans of Worlds Collide. These two are very good runners here, so we'll see how they decide to tackle the challenge that is Poltergeist. So a little bit more about the War of the Magi tournament of the month, essentially. So you could sign up at any time during the month, and the tournament starts at the beginning of the month and ends, obviously, at the end of the month. Runners are split up into different groups. So this is Group C right now with Christopher Warkin and Arusta. So both of these runners are in a group together, and everybody in the group plays everybody else in the group. And then basically as you move up or as you get wins, you get XP. And for each XP, you go up sort of a tier or a level. Right now, a lot of our runners are at level 10 magic. It's based on like the level magic enemies in the game in Fanatic's Tower. So most runners are at level 10 magic. If you win the tournament, you obviously get enough XP to go up an additional level here. As we do see, we have +6 to dragon levels, +3 to boss levels. Go-Go, Cyan with Shock, Mog with Sword Tech is our start here. So very interesting start for our runners. Go-Go can equip any command to them. All you have to do is go into the status menu, as you see Arusta doing over here on the right-hand side. And since we have Sword Tech and we have access to Cyan, it's interesting to note that doing one of Cyan's checks, called Cyan's Dream, will actually give us access to all of the Sword Techs in the game, similar to in the vanilla game. So I'm expecting that our runners are going to head there pretty soon. So what else do we have access to besides Cyan's Dream? Well, you can see the Lone Wolf sort of running away here. So Mog, who is one of our characters, gives us access to the Lone Wolf check, where he dangles him off of the ledge in the vanilla game, and also access to the Moogle defense check at the very, very beginning, where you have to rescue Terra from the Norse guards, and that's where you talk to Arvis in that house that we were just in for both of our runners. Go-Go gives us access to Go-Go's only check, where you recruit them in the vanilla game in the Zone Eater, getting gobbled up by the belly on Triangle Island in the World of Ruin. As I mentioned, Cyan gives us access to Cyan's Dream, which is actually 3 different check rewards in one place. There are 2 bosses that you need to fight, and then there is the Esper item that you get on the throne there. Cyan also gives us access to Mount Zozo, which is where you recruit him in the World of Ruin portion of the game. There is a dragon there, and as I mentioned, if we get 4 dragons, then we get auto haste and auto safe, or auto shell. It's one of the 2. I don't quite remember. So that is a definite option for our runners here. Additionally, Cyan also gives us access to the World of Balance Doma, where you sort of recruit him in the vanilla game, Doma Siege. So we'll see where our runners decide to go here. And it looks like Arusta flipping over to the World of Ruin here, and we'll see what they decide to do. As one thing I didn't mention about the settings is we have a new setting. Well, it's not new, but an interesting setting called YNPC Remove. As you see there, a choice between a Genji Glove and a Mega Elixir from the Norse Weapon Shop, and Arusta picks the Mega Elixir. So with YNPC set to remove, you could actually sequence break into checks you're not normally able to get to. All of the doors in Worlds Collide and in Final Fantasy VI are treated as NPCs. So if you press the Y button, it actually deletes the NPC from existence, essentially. So it's great to like knock townspeople out of the way in case they get into your way. But one of the unintended things that it also does is it allows you access to sequence break into areas you wouldn't normally have access to, and that is one of them. The Norse weapon shop is normally a check that you can only access with lock. That gives you a choice between an Esper or an item and another high tier item. In this case, it was 2 items, so Arusta not getting on the board with what we term progression, right? That would be either a character or an Esper, but they did get their first check underneath their belt. He also took a look at the Curse Shield, and the Curse Shield battles is 19 in this particular flag set. That's a lot. In the vanilla game, yes, it's 255, which is absurd. But in Worlds Collide, you're probably not doing 20 fights throughout the course of the entire seed, because we do give our runners a set of Moogle charms. We give our runners 3 of them, so they can avoid the random encounters. Or if they want to take a random encounter to, let's say, level up a little bit before going to a boss fight, you could actually take off the Moogle charm, and that's something that some runners will do there. As Christopher Warkin selling the farm for an economizer. Normally, I say the cursed ring is pretty nice to have. Is there you see the usage of YNPC remove. That little girl just got blipped out of existence. We sometimes call it the Thanos snap here in the Worlds Collide community a little bit. Some shurikens for sale there in the weapon shop, so that's really nice. You'll see that the items have random prices. They're kind of within a 25% cheaper and 25% more expensive of what they were in the vanilla game here. Shops are randomized in that they are shuffled, the contents are shuffled amongst the shops, and then 20% of those items get replaced by any random item. So another interesting thing here is both of our runners going to do some looting and some shopping, which is typical in the first 5 to 10 minutes of a Worlds Collide seed there. Just because you don't really know what you have at the start of the seed, right? All the chests are random. Nice force armor there from Arusta in the chest down in the basement. So it's a good idea to at least take a peek at some pretty treasure-dense locations, and South Figaro is one of the densest, because there are so many chests down here in the basement. I think there's about 20 of them altogether between the town and the basement. So that's a good jumping off point here. Interesting thing to note, in the vanilla game, there's like a concept of the chests being upgraded from one world to the other. In Worlds Collide, that doesn't really matter. All of the chests are randomized in the same way. There's no extra credence given to whether you're in the World of Balance or the World of Ruin. The chests will be exactly the same. There are some exceptions to that, and one of them is South Figaro. So the outside chests are obtainable both in the World of Balance and the World of Ruin, but these chests in the basement will be looted if we go back here in the different world. The only other area that applies to is back in the Moogle mines, which we didn't see either of our runners go to yet. Those chests are the same between both worlds. And then in South Figaro Cave, they are different between both worlds as well. We don't have Edgar, who normally gives us access to the South Figaro Cave to go down to the engine room and down to the ancient castle, but that is blocked off by the Siegfried NPC. So with YNPC set to remove, we could actually sequence break into there. So it'll be interesting to see if anybody decides to do that, considering, as I mentioned, we get a reward for doing 4 dragons. So yeah, you see Arusta's in the World of Ruin, Christopher Warkin's in the World of Balance. They got the same chests in the basement, but they got different ones on the outside of the town. I think early on, if I'm these runners, I'm looking for warp stones. Warp stones will allow me to do the Go-Go Zone Eater check, and the Zone Eater check does not have any fight in it. It is what we call a free check. You don't have to fight anything in order to get the reward there. You just have to not get crushed by the ceiling, which is easier said than done sometimes, right? But if you have a warp stone, you don't have to go back out of Zone Eater the way you came in. You just warp out when you get to the end. Looks like Christopher Warkin is going to very early on check what's in the Coliseum here. So the items that you bet and the items that you receive are randomized, as well as the enemies that you fight. So we give you a menu that says if you bet thing on the left, you will receive thing on the right. Unfortunately, there's not really much to go on there. Normally, you're hoping to see a really good item for a really not so good item. But in this flag set, we don't show you all of the things that you'll get as a reward. We only show you a subset of that. And it looks like Arusta did find some warp stones somewhere along the way. Is going to go set their party down to 1 member. That'll make this engulf a lot faster with the Zone Eater. And there you see Quest for Workin completing that Dragoon set. And since he knows that Mog can naturally wear the best spears in the game, that is a really good option for them as they get an Aura Lance to go along with that Boots and Horns. So that's already an endgame build for their Mog right there. Mog will probably get the Sword Tech upgrade at some point, given the fact that we have Cyan in our party. However, it's always good to have sort of an endgame build right away on your character. So nice heads-up play there from Quest for Workin. In Worlds Collide, in this seed in particular, the equipment pool is the same as it is in Vanilla, and there's a 33% chance you could equip something that you wouldn't be able to in the Vanilla game. So he's using that Vanilla game knowledge to his advantage. Worlds Collide runners, they need both randomizer knowledge of, hey, where am I going and what rewards can I possibly get here, as well as vanilla game knowledge, because we didn't alter the stats of any of the weapons or any of the gear or any of the properties of any of the gear. We didn't change up the boss scripts, so they're still going to behave the same way they do in the vanilla, albeit they'll do slightly different spells, but it will still be the same element that they normally are in the vanilla game. So there's a lot of things that need to be carried over from the normal speed run here. So Arusta heading through the Zone Eater belly here on that side, and Quest for Workin looks like they're going to go do their Lone Wolf check. So both of these are considered free checks because you don't have to fight any enemies to go and get these rewards. Quest for Workin will be set up very nicely to do the Kefka at Narsh check, and there is Gao as the reward for the Kefka at Narsh check. So Kefka at Narsh is what we consider a ungated check, meaning you can do it at any time. That's Palador there for Arusta, so first shiny stone on the board for them. And let's see what the reward here is at Lone Wolf. It's a soldier sprite, so this is not a character as a reward. However, Lone Wolf gives you the option of saving the soldier or going to grab that economizer, which he called out. Since Quest for Workin already bought one when he was in South Figaro, it makes sense that he's going to go get the soldier. If he really wants to go get that economizer, he can go into the world of Ruin, Moogle Mines, all the way in the back, and can go pick that up at any time. That Ifrit has bio and HP plus 100 on it. So if there was a character that's, let's say, we wanted to have their health be increased, that's a really nice Esper to find early on. Arusta heading to the Returner's hideout and deleting the most annoying NPC in the game, in my opinion. Always glad to see him go. All right, so Quest for Workin is going to start the Kefka Narsh battle here. You do have to split up your party into 2. So with only having 3 characters on deck, that means he will have to unfortunately leave somebody behind. He decides to leave Gogo behind. He is still at level 3, but as I mentioned, the bosses are based on the number of checks you've done times 2.5, and then plus 3. So his enemies are going to be about level 6 or level 7 at the moment. And this is normally a very difficult fight. However, we have access to Shock, which is Leo's ability from the vanilla game. So in Worlds Collide, you have the option of giving some character abilities that are temporary, like Leo's Shock, Bannon's Health. You could even do the Possess from the Ghosts. We normally don't have that as an option because Possess is incredibly broken. You could basically one-shot anything with Possess because the game developers never checked for the possession flag because you can't take the Ghost outside of the Phantom Train. Nice clutch block there from Cyan, although he got hit with 0 damage there from the Doom Dragon earlier. It looks like Quest for Workin is going to get through this fight, which is really, really nice for them. 30 MP gained as well, so now we're going to learn all of those spells that we wanted to learn here. Unfortunately, he's at 1 HP, but he's already at level 14. Holy cow. He has 1 potion and 1 tonic. Alright, so it looks like Christopher Walken decided that 1 fight is enough. And almost got what we call the soldier skip there. So if you move at on the same frame that an NPC moves, then you don't get into a battle encounter with them. So that's sort of how that works there. Alright, so using Shock to their advantage now. Shock is based on your magic power stat. Normally Cyan's magic power is pretty dreadful. However, Shock is very strong. Alright. 50,000 GP for Tizen Thief selling something, and this is going to be a rough fight here for Christopher Walken, unfortunately, as that is Cyan down right away. So thankfully Mog is up in the air to dodge these attacks. However, in Final Fantasy VI, if your character is dead, you do not get the XP or the MP from the fight. So this is going to be rough here, as hopefully Mog survives this. No, that's brutal. So with the Kefka at Nourish battle, you actually don't game over. You go back to the save point here with 1 HP. So we'll see if Christopher Walken decides to reset or if he's going to continue that. And that is a 1,830 GP Esper there in the World of Ruin. Apparently the market crashed when the world ended for Espers there. Oh my goodness, that is loaded. And so is that one. Flare, Pearl, Speed +2, I think. And then that one's got Quick and Fire 3. So a pair of really good Espers for Arusta here at the beginning of the game. So, like I mentioned, Shock is based on the magic power stat. And what we like to do here in Worlds Collide is damage is sort of king. We want to DPS out as much as possible. You can't die if you kill things real fast, right? So that is sort of the mantra in Worlds Collide, is to just kill things really fast. And these soldiers are double Doom Dragon and single Doom Dragon mobs. This is wild. I've never seen something like that before. Arusta is taking off the Moogle Charm for some grind fights. This is going to be a pretty difficult one here, though, because those veterans are very tough. And Christopher Walken here going back against Inferno, and his characters have even less health now than they did for the first fight. Oh, he's going to use the Mega Elixir here. So really good heads-up play from Christopher Walken, knowing that he did spike a Mega Elixir in his travels. Looks like Arusta either got condemned or he's got that Curse Ring on Mog. So the Curse Ring will teach us X-Zone, which is an instant death spell. And we do want to have instant death spells for later on in the game. Final Kefka has 2 different parts across 2 different tiers that can be instantly killed. And we don't know, remember, spells are randomized across Espers, if we ever are going to have access to instant death in the Seed. Second time is going to work for Christopher Walken there, getting past that Inferno fight, and will grab their Gal, so that is member number 4, a Steel Tools Gal. Not immediately useful unless we have like a drill or a chainsaw for Gao. However, Gao has very high normal base stats, and the stats in Worlds Collide, or at least in this seed, are randomized within a 25% and plus 25 and minus 25% of what they are in the normal game. Alright, so Arusta gets through their veteran fight, so they're going to be ready to go for their first challenge. And it looks like they're heading up to the Coliseum to get that Dragoon set as well. Christopher Walken doing a little save. And then is going to go ahead and do this Moogle defense here. Going to trigger this. And since that is Mog running around and not a different character sprite, we know that this check is going to result in either an Esper or an item. Alright, so Arusta has a little bit more in his inventory here. So there's a couple of things that I might want to get. That Force Armor. Oh boy, this is gross. This is a gross Coliseum fight here. Hopefully Cyan can pull this out, though. I think more important for Arusta will be getting the Dragoon set. The item reward is less important. The objective reward is way more important. And unfortunately, Cyan trying to write a check that his spell casting can't cash. All right, Cyan, just do the thing. A bit unlucky there. The audio sounds like it's behind for me, so I'm gonna go ahead and try to fix that for you guys here. We'll see if that works. All right, we're getting better. We're getting closer. All right, that's a Phoenix Esper there for Christopher Workin. Nope, it's still behind. All right, it sounds better now. So Christopher Workin getting an Esper. Let me know if he gets out of sync again. Drinks Glue in the house. What up, Drinks Glue? What up, Knuckly Kong as well? Alright, we're still out of sync, so let's switch over to Christopher Workin here and we'll see if that's any better. No, he sounds like he's even more behind. I do not like when this happens. That's just me being a perfectionist, I guess. Alright, so Arusta heading over to Mount Zozo. Christopher Workin here doing the Dome of Siege check, so that's one of Cyan's checks. And this is not a character either, otherwise we would have recruited them before this fight. And that's another Esper there, Alexander. So question for the chat, this looks fun, how can we play this game? FF6WorldsCollide.com, and wow, that is a awesome Esper there with both Mute and Doom. And Fire 3, or Tre Fuego, as it's affectionately called sometimes. Yeah, so FF6WorldsCollide.com is the website where you can roll your own seeds, or there is a link to the Discord where some fun people will definitely try and help you out and onboard you if you have any questions, as well as there is a link to a wiki with a plethora of great information here. And unfortunately, this formation on the Veld will not give us our Gao. So Christopher Workin can run away from this if they want to. Alright, so Arusta looks like they're actually going to go get the reward first and then double back for the dragon here. Oh, and we've got Celeste. So one of the cool things about Worlds Collide is that you can have two very different paths through a seed, because normally you only need to get to a count of characters and a count of Espers, right? So that allows you to take multiple paths through the same seed. So Gao does open up this Veld check here where you basically, have to go grab the reward, as well as the Serpent Trench, where you go put on the helmet in the vanilla game and dive through the trench. Arusta just got Celeste, and Celeste gives us access to the Opera House Disruption, where she has to sing before Ultros pushes the 4-ton weight on her, as well as the South Figaro prisoner spot. So that is what we do consider a free check, where you recruit Celeste in the vanilla game. And a 3-part check, so a check with 3 rewards, the Magitech Factory. So that's where we can go with Celeste. As Quest for Workin grabbing the Esper Odin there from the Velt check. So from the Velt, as same as it is in the vanilla game, you can't have a full party because you need at least 1 spot open to recruit your reward there. All right, it looks like Christopher Workin is not going to head immediately to the Serpent Trench, but instead going to go to World of Ruin Ikea, man after my own heart. It's going to check the shops here. Grabbing some sleeping bags. Celeste does have access to Blitz, and what that means is at level 42, we can go do the cutscene with Duncan in order to learn Bum Rush, as you just got 1,000 damage to the face there. That is not fun. One of the cool things about Go-Go is they can mimic items even if they're not in your inventory anymore. So you do see that we queued up that Thunder Rod, of which the Storm Dragon is weak to. And then we just used Mimic with Go-Go, and we got a second Thunder Rod out of that. Alright, Christopher Workin sees something that he likes in the relic shop here. Going on a bit of a selling spree. Meanwhile, that's Dragon number 1 down for Arusta. Dragons will give out 200 XP per level for your team, as well as 50 MP. So basically, you can learn almost any spell, as well as their vanilla reward. In this case, the Storm Dragon is a Force Armor, I think, or a Force Shield. It's one of the two. And they also drop one of those high-tier items that I was talking about before. And in this flag set, which is Poltergeist's Fury, it is a high-tier relic or a Flame Shield or a Mega Elixir. And in this case, it was a Flame Shield for Arusta. Christopher Workin picking up some Atlas Armlets. So those will boost your physical damage by 25%. So if you're using the fight command, you're using the jump command, or, as I suspect is going to happen here, if you're using Sword Tech 7, which is what we can unlock by doing the Doma Dream set of checks here. Arusta going to opt for one of our free checks here from Celeste. This makes sense, as he's over in the area. That is not the right command there. Not at all. It's still not right. That's okay. We'll figure it out at some point. Arusta did pick up a Magicite there, though, from that check. And here we get boss number 1 of Cyan's Dream. Oh no. Are we a multiple of 5? We are for Cyan, unfortunately. So the Doomgaze fight is slightly different in Worlds Collide than it is in the vanilla game. Doomgaze doesn't run away. That would be way too easy if he did. So he's a bit of a beefy boss, even though he looks basically like a skeleton and bones. Or bones in a cloak. And that's because his HP from all of the different fights are basically rolled into one here. So he's kind of a difficult boss, even if you aren't a multiple of 5. Just because he has a lot of health, he has very high physical and magical defense. Thankfully, Shock is very good, but does not ignore defense. We're going to go ahead and get Gogo back up. So Christopher Workin deciding that Gao isn't even useful enough to put them in the party for this. Normally I don't blame them, but we have access to some really good magical spells. So, as I mentioned, Gao's base stats are pretty good. So, a Gao doing Fire 3 is going to be way better than a Gogo doing a Fire 3. Or a Mog doing a Fire 3. Or dare I say it, even Cyan doing Shock, which is what he's doing right now. So, don't sleep on Gao, even if he's got terrible commands, because you could always turn him into a magic caster. Alright, so Arusta is going to be doing the Narsh loop here with his team, which means Esper, Gao, and then another Esper at the Moogle defense, and Gogo is just getting bullied here. Doomgaze is picking on Gogo. So one good thing about this Doomgaze boss being here is that we know that this Doomgaze boss will not be inside Kefka's Tower, and oh boy, Mog is just barely hanging on here. Yeah, get Mog up in the air. Hopefully this will kill Doomgaze, and there it is. So unfortunately, Gogo is not going to get the XP from that fight, but sometimes it's better to just get the fight over with, because you'll get way more XP from the later encounters in the game than you will from the earlier ones. As that is an offering there, which might be quite nice, depending upon what we find. There we go. I finally updated the commands properly. Go me. So give our runners a follow if you're not already, while they are in the menu here. And we do see a ghost sprite getting chased by another ghost sprite over there in Cyan's Dream. So that means that this second reward here will definitely be an Esper. The second part of Cyan's Dream is always either an Esper or a character. That's a nice find in a chest there, a Minerva. Christopher Workin does not yet have Celeste in their party, but Celeste can naturally wear the Minerva. Same thing with Terra. The Minerva will nullify 4 of the 8 elements, as well as give you increased magic power. So it's really nice for a magic caster, but also very good defensive armor anyway. Arusta almost makes the soldier skip. It can be quite difficult to do sometimes if your timing is just slightly off. But essentially, there is sort of a soldier that runs back and forth across the bottom, which is who Arusta clipped right there. When that soldier is basically past the second one from the left, that's when you should start to go with your character. All right, we know that this is Inferno here. So we'll see what we do. We're going to be doing Shock. Unfortunately, Inferno absorbs fire, as the name kind of implies. So we're not going to be able to use our Tre Fuego on this boss here. This boss is weak to lightning, which we're not going to be able to learn this seed because of the fact that it is a Poltergeist Fury flag set. Second boss in Cyan's Dream. So we did see the Moogle defense, which is where the Martial boss normally is. And in Worlds Collide, there are already so many pretty easy bosses, relatively, that we decided to give Martial some help instead of 2 guard doggos. So we do randomize the adds that Martial comes with, and in this case, they ended up being a couple of enemies from Kefka's Tower here. So this is going to be a little more difficult than normal, but I think Christopher Workin has the offense to pull this one out here. Meanwhile, Inferno doing what they do best, bullying Cyan. Mog doing very nice damage with that Dragoon set that we won from the Coliseum match. And for Christopher Warkin, this will be at least one more Esper. He's hoping for maybe a second one on the throne at Doma, where the Alexander Esper is in the vanilla game. Arusta will grab their Gal, so they're up to 5 characters now. And there is an Esper on the throne, so that is 2 Espers and 1 offering in Cyan's Dream. But I think, more importantly, we get the Sword Tech unlock there for Gogo. And that treasure chest there is kind of fun. If you try and do it during the time when the dream is kind of in that sepia color, you'll get to watch a nice cutscene with Cyan and his wife and his little kid. But that wastes time. This is a speed run. Ain't nobody got time for that. We don't want to be nice. We want to win. So grab that chest after you're done with the Doma Dream. And not before that. All right, so Christopher Warkin looks like they're going to go to Mount Zozo, so they will get Celeste, who will then be the fourth character in his party. Arusta here, finishing off the last of the Norse loop. So while runners are retracing their steps, ff6worldscollide.com is the website that is the basis for our game. That's where you can go to roll your own randomized game, as well as it has a link to our Discord where you can join. And I promise people will trip over one another to help you out. We have some great things for newcomers, including a mentor program where you could sign up for some one-on-one live coaching time, or if you're kind of antisocial, you can just record yourself doing a run and submit it, and someone in the community who is very knowledgeable will do a video review, sort of in a critique style. I try not to be the Simon Cowell of the community, so it is a nice and welcoming place. Nobody gets that angry with anybody else. There is also a new player tournament called the Moogle Cup that is signups are always ongoing, and it starts whenever we get a certain number of new players that want to participate in the tournament. All right, so tentacles here for Arusta. That bottom left tentacle, yep, that one, is weak to fire, which is very nice. Excuse me, the bottom left one, rather, is weak to fire. It's also weak to instant death. So we can use the X zone on it. And unfortunately, Gogo missed. Womp, womp, womp. Christopher Warkin taking advantage of Sword Tech 5. So Sword Tech 5 refills both MP and HP of your character, which is really nice to have. It kind of makes your Sword Tech user pretty indestructible, although if you don't have a lot of HP to begin with, then that's a problem. All right, so that is Dragon down for Christopher Warkin. Unfortunately, Gogo laying on the ground again for that fight. Will not getting any XP from it. Quite unfortunate. All right, so that is the Phoenix Esper there for Arusta. So that's number 5 for them. And this will be character number 5 for Christopher Warkin here at the end with Celeste. So Christopher Warkin with a slight Esper advantage here. However, this race is far from over, folks. Remember what is lurking inside of Kefka's Tower. It's the statue bosses. Gogo in Worlds Collide is, I don't want to say a divisive character, but people have definite opinions about them. The thing with Gogo is that they are very versatile because they can basically staple any command onto them. And in this case, when we have someone with Blitz and someone with a unlocked sword tech, that's very, very good. However, Go-Go's stats are usually much weaker than the rest of the characters that you have access to. So the way to overcome that is by gaining levels, because levels are way more important in Worlds Collide than stats are. Unfortunately, if you're dead for every single fight, you're not going to gain very many levels, as you already see that Go-Go is level 17, while the rest of Christopher Walken's party is way higher than that. All right, so Arusta going for their Velt check. So this is where they will even up their Esper count with Christopher Walken. Again, for the Velt check reward will only show up if you have a straight up attack. So a back attack like that, a pincer attack, or a side attack won't actually give you the chance of the reward. However, it's just easier to kill that one enemy versus running away, so that's what Arusta did, and we're moving onwards here. Christopher Walken going to head down to the basement here. And then it'll be interesting to see where we go, because the things we have not seen is we haven't seen the Serpent Trench, which is one of Gao's checks. We haven't seen the Magitech Factory or the Opera House Disruption, which is what Celeste gives us access to. And I think that's about it between our runners. We've done all of the Cyan checks, all of the Mog checks, and all of the Go-Go checks. So remember I talked about earlier on that there must be a path through the seed to acquire all of your characters. So what does that mean, chat? That means our next character either has to be at the end of the Serpent Trench, the Opera House Disruption, or in the Magitech Factory. The Magitech Factory has a special set of properties about what rewards can be at what spots. So the Magitech Factory is a 3-part check, and the only part that can reward a character is all the way at the end of the Magitech Factory. So if you want to go get a character, you have to do that whole entire thing. So chat, I leave it up to you. Where do you think we will find our 6 characters? Is it going to be the Serpent Trench? Is it going to be the Opera House? Or is it going to be at the end of the Magitech Factory? And who is it going to be? Now, if there is a character at 2 different spots, we'll give it to the first runner that finds it. And Christopher Walken is going to show us what's at the end of the Serpent Trench. Whereas Arusta is not going to be able to get a character there at Doma Dream. However, I think he's going to want to get the sword tech unlock for Go-Go. So I don't blame them for going here. The Serpent Trench is 3 to 5 fixed encounters here. So this is a really good check early on in the seed. It'll also be great for Go-Go to get some of this XP back from all of the fights that he missed there. All right, we got a couple of guesses in chat, whichever the one the runners don't do. So Dragonfire hoping for some destruction there. Woke up and chose violence today. And Darkness is Opera House Realm. So Realm will be nice because we have access to some pretty powerful magic like Fire 3 and Pearl and Flare. And Realm has the highest base magic power in the entire game. So she would be a good candidate to replace someone like, let's say, Cyan in our party, who is doing Shock right now, and Shock is normally pretty good, but kind of tapers off towards the end of the game. And oh no, that's a triple kill there from Doomgaze on our party. You hate to see it happen. Starting on the back foot here is never where you want to be for this Doomgaze fight. Doomgaze taking names in the seed so far, folks. Alright, so now we're getting the rest of our party up here. Let's just hope we don't get an AoE ice attack on this next turn from Doomgaze. Alright. We'll take that. All right, so Questiver working heading through the Serpent Trench here. That was their second fight. This will be their third fight. And Arusta trying to decide if they want to burn their Mega Elixir or not, like Questiver working did on this fight. So the other cool thing about Go-Go is that you can't put any Espers on Go-Go. I guess that's not actually a cool thing. But Go-Go, you don't have to teach them spells. They basically inherit the spells that you have learned on the other members of your party in the fight. And this is going to be another triple here for Doomgaze. And let's see if Mog can pull this out. Meanwhile, that is a realm! But it's not at the Opera House. It's at the Serpent Trench. Realm with lore. Oh my goodness, that is a nice combination there. Taco Mage coming in with the Prime sub. Thank you so much, Taco Mage. Yeah, so I think Doomgaze is up to it's our runners 1 and Doomgaze 1 right now. But Doomgaze has a lot of individual body counts. I think they've killed Go-Go about 6 times already this seed. So in Worlds Collide, lore works a little differently than in the base game. In the base game, you have to have Strago or the lore person notice the spell being cast. In Worlds Collide, you don't necessarily have to have the lore character in your party to learn it. So recall that we fought Doomgaze already, and level 5 Doom is considered a lore. So Questiver Workin already has access to level 5 Doom, even though Realm was not even in their party when that happened. So a bit of an interesting thing. Now, you might be wondering, what do we have access to now that we have Realm in the party? So Realm opens up 2 checks, and they're basically where you recruit her in the vanilla game. In the World of Balance, at Esper Mountain, where she chases you around and sketches a portrait of our favorite octopus friend. Also in the World of Ruin at Owser's Mansion, where, again, we're fighting a painting there. So what Arusta did was took off the Moogle Charm, did a fight, gained some levels, and now he isn't starting on the back foot from this Doomgaze spot here. Questiver Workin went back to go grab that Economizer. Unfortunately, that counts as a check, which means that scaling is going to go up for him going to get that Economizer. I'm not sure if it's worth doing that, but you know what? We also get a Kefka Tower skip at 21 checks, and it's not on the tracker, but Questiver Workin is now up to 13. Arusta is at 10, just as an FYI. All right, Arusta having a much better time here in spite of that just slight hiccup with Celeste there. All right, we'll see what Questiver Workin decides to do. We'll see if he goes to the Narsh weapon shop since he's already here. And we can go up to the top of the World of Ruin Narsh. That is where we could fight Tritok, which is another one of those checks that is not gated by any characters. However, it will only grant us an Esper or an item as the reward. There is a dragon up there, so that gives us more of a reason to go that way. But again, we need to get to 7 characters. And we're not going to get a character in this section, so Questiver Workin taking some time to go do that regardless. Yeah, Curse of the Commentator, of course, there. You're welcome, chat. All right, so now Arusta will be on to the second part of Cyan's dream, and hopefully they will be done with their second boss here. And they will get 2 more Espers, so they'll be at 8 at the end of Dream. All right, so we have Grand Train as one of our randomized lures that we have. So our characters do start with anywhere from 5 to 7 lures that are completely randomized, and we happen to get the best one on the best character. So there you go. GG's, everybody. We did it. So this also means that if you really wanted to be nasty, you could use Go-Go in your party and have one of their commands be Sword Tech, one of their commands be Lure, and you could cast Grand Train and then use Sword Tech 5 to refill your MP, cast Grand Train whenever you want. So you can get kind of wild with a Go-Go build. Oh, more quarters than an arcade machine there from the Dirt Dragon. Holy cow, we've got a lot of lures. So maybe it was more than just 5 to 7 starting lures, because I don't think we've seen that many spells come out. So it's important to note that you can actually help out Go-Go's stats with things like gear, but you cannot equip Espers to Go-Go, right? And Espers do have stat bonuses on them. So again, there's another positive, or rather another negative for Go-Go, is you can't bump up their stats in any meaningful way with Espers. Did get a Magus Rod from that Dirt Dragon drop, as well as an Experience Egg, which would have been nice to have, I don't know, about 40 minutes ago. But hey, we'll take it. I think one of the spells has Cure, or one of the Espers, excuse me, has Cure 3 on it. So I don't think we're going to be hurting for curative magic here this seed. Even if we don't have Pearl Wind. We do have Blitz, and Mantra is a healing Blitz as well as a status clearing Blitz. It's not nearly as effective as Pearl Wind is, though. Alright, Dueler Marshal fight here. And that's Christopher Warkin extinguishing the Flame Eater at the top of the Tritalk Cliff. We'll see if this is an Esper for them, because remember, this can only be an Esper an item. And of course, Arusta is failing math once again, with Celeste getting hit by level 4 Flare. And that's not a shiny stone, excuse me, but another egg. Okay. We've got ourselves a breakfast sandwich up there at the top of Nourish 2 eggs. Alright, so where does Christopher Warkin go? Remember, he has access to Realms checks, and he just flew right past one of them. Arusta going to grab 2 more Espers, so I'm going to put them up at 8 here. Sword Tech unlock for Arusta. Oh, hi, Ice Shield in a barrel. What is Thamasa doing? Smuggling elemental shields there. You don't need a third economizer, please. Save your cash. Yeah, lots of good spells this seed. We've got Mute on a couple of different Espers, which will be really helpful for one of the parts of Tier 2. We did find a Curse Ring, and then there's also Doom on another Esper, so that'll help with 2 different parts across 2 different tiers of Final Kefka. What we have not found is what we call... Oh, excuse me, I stand corrected. We have Fenrir. So we have also found what is called Calmness Protection to help dodge an instant death physical special attack from the 3rd tier of Kefka. And that is a soldier sprite running around here at Esper Mountain, so this will not be our character. Yeah, so the spell in Final Fantasy VI is called W-Wind. I think it stands for Whirlwind based on the animation of the tornado that plays. We sometimes will jokingly call it Windy Wind, or West Wind, or Wild Wind. But White Wind is something different. It's Pearl Wind, which is a lure. Alright, MC Daddy Pants here for Arusta. And Ifrit is going ham here. But thankfully we've got Minervas, we've got a couple of elemental shields, so that Merton not doing a lot of damage to our crew. William wins CPA, that's a great one. Alright, Esper Stray, the reward there for Christopher Warkin. So, again, we still have 3 places where our now 7th character can be. It's Owser's Mansion, or at one of the other 2 checks of Celeste. And I have to think, if I'm one of these runners, that I don't want to go to Magitech Factory. Because we already have either 9 or 8 Espers here. Right? And the first 2 checks in the Magitech Factory are only Esper item. So at this point, if I was one of these runners, I would last location that check. Alright, where's Arusta going? Alright, so Arusta does not have Realm, and even if they did, you have to do Owser's Mansion in the World of Ruin, Jador, not the World of Balance, Jador. Christopher Warkin going to find the bad news about how expensive the Tizen Thief Esper is in the World of Balance, but if he goes into the World of Ruin, he will see how far depreciation goes. No, he's just gonna buy it there. Wow. Alright, so that's Esper number 9 there for Christopher Warkin. Could have saved 48,000 and change by going into the World of Ruin. Arusta landing outside of Vector and then thinking better of it and heading instead to the Serpent Trench. So they will get Realm at the end of this. And then what I would imagine that they do is they go peek Esper Mountain, because you could peek what the reward is, and then make another decision. It looks like Christopher Warkin is going to head to Owser's Mansion. So a little bit of a meta game here. Again, this is randomizer game knowledge that these runners have. In Worlds Collide, how the character algorithm works, the logic, is that seeds are usually deeper than they are wide. And what that essentially translates it to is the characters that you just most recently recruited are more likely to have characters in their spots than in the characters that you start off with, or the quote-unquote Sphere 1 characters, right? So Christopher Warkin is hedging their bets that in lieu of going to the Opera House Disruption, where Celeste was, since we just recruited Realm, and Realm comes after Gao, that is a much deeper tree in our logic than Celeste, who was available at one of our starting characters, check Cyan. Alright, so Arusta heading through the Serpent Trench. Owser's Mansion, there are 2 required fights here. This first painting, and then there's one more painting that you have to fight before you fight the boss painting, which isn't the painting, or it may be the painting, because it might be randomized. I think if the painting was Jackson Pollock, I would try and fight it. For whatever reason, his paintings always make me angry. And I think it's like the the paint splotches that are everywhere. But if it was like a Monet, a nice like pointillism, just scene of a nice bridge and a river, I think that would calm me down and chill me out. Yes, so Kefkat Norsh is Gao. And there is our 7th character, Locke, at the painting. Yeah, so since we have Mog in the party, we looped Kefka and Narsh in with Mog's other 2 checks. Question from the chat. So the trick about bypassing NPCs, does that work with the chest that you have to feed Coral to in Ebbett's Rock? So the chest that you have to feed Coral to in Ebbett's Rock, you can't actually get next to it until the dialogue box pops up. So since the dialogue box pops up first, and if you say yes or no, okay, let's take the 2 branches, right? If you say no, then the chest pushes you back, and you just repeat that loop infinitely if you try and talk to it again. If you say yes and you don't have enough Coral, then he also just throws you away, and you can't get close to him again. If you do have enough Coral, then the chest hops away, and you don't get to see the chest ever. So there really isn't a scenario where you can remove the talking chest in Ebbett's Rock. You can, however, remove the boss in Ebbett's Rock, and if you do that, you have to exit the room and go back and collect 22 Coral all over again. So it's not recommended you do that. There's a lot of soft locks you can get yourself into with YNPC remove. So it does allow like sequence breaking, but it also allows you to potentially screw yourself over, as we do see Final Kefka unlock complete there for Christopher Workin at 59.05. So we'll see what they decide to do as... Oh no, did they get grabbed out of the sky? They did! Kefka says, not in my house. So you can hit the Doom Gaze tile if you don't have Setzer. If you do have Setzer, since obviously he controls the airship, you could pick the Doom Gaze tile as one of the dialogue options on the airship. So... this is a free boss fight, and it is a potential Esper or item reward. We don't really need another Esper here. But Kefka wanted to fight us before we got into the tower. So there's another Esper, actually, and this brings up an interesting conundrum here for Christopher Workin. So I mentioned there is a Kefka Tower skip, and the Kefka Tower skip is at 8 characters, 11 Espers, or 21 checks. So that just gave him check number 20. So he's going to land outside of the Opera House disruption, or rather the Opera House Dragon in World of Ruin. He'll get check number 21, and he'll be able to skip into the switches in Kefka's tower. So thank you very much, Kefka, for fighting us in the sky there. Appreciate it. All right, so I don't know if Arusta didn't get hit with Grand Train or just didn't look at the lures and didn't see Grand Train, but is going to decide on a party with Gogo in it instead of a party with Realm in it. All right, so Arusta's going to see that this is not a character, and... they're going to do it anyway. No, they're not. Just kidding. Because they're only at 15 checks, so they're not close to getting Kefka Tower skip the same way Christopher Workin is. Alright, so where is Arusta going here? Okay, it looks like we are going to do Alger's Mansion. Again, 2 great runners. So they have the randomizer game knowledge to say, who was the last character I got? Let's go do their checks. That's probably where my characters are. So good on them for getting this done here. However, Christopher Workin has a bit of an advantage here, being that they already have Go mode, and this will get them their skip for Kefka's Tower. So they will be able to not do the bottom half of that dungeon. They'll just skip right over it. However, this is a Warring Triads flag set, which is the basis for this particular tournament of the month. So the statues inside of Kefka's Tower are shuffled amongst themselves. So that means we're going to see Poltergeist, Doom, and Goddess in KT, but not necessarily where you think they'd be. So Kefka's Tower is going to be very difficult, as we do see the skip unlock there, and that's yet another economizer for Christopher Workin. And they have some pretty decent levels, so Kefka's Tower may not be a problem. This Enoch fight is not going great for Arusta here, although thankfully his confused characters didn't hurt him much. So here you'll see the power of the skip. We will get to the switches in Kefka's Tower, where you push the weights over and you have to decide to split your party up a little bit. So Christopher Workin will get to skip over the Inferno spot and a bunch of walking. All right, so in Kefka's Tower, the group on the left here will fight one boss. The group in the middle will fight two bosses, the Guardian spot and the Poltergeist spot. And then the group on the right will fight one boss. So after a boss fight, you get a save point. So let's see. Vanilla Doom here for this crew. And we've got Cyan with Shock. And now Cyan is frozen. So the only way to unfreeze a character is to cast a fire spell on them. However, we don't have fire, but we do have a Flame Saber, which has a chance to cast fire. So Christopher Workin's going to give this a shot. And there we go. Really, really awesome heads-up play there from Christopher Workin to use the Flame Saber to get Cyan out of that pickle there. This fight's going to take a little bit because Shock, again, as I mentioned, it's pretty good early on and it's good for clearing out mobs, but 3,400 damage is not very good for the end of the game here. Meanwhile, my least favorite boss in the game, Scare Force, as it's nicknamed. This shouldn't be too big of an issue here, though. Mod giving love to all of the parts of Air Force there, and that'll be character number 7 and go mode for Arusta. Alright, so Doom actually has 2 phases, and I don't think we're on to the second phase yet. Phase 1 is where they can cast some ice spells, including Uncross. The second phase, which we'll see via an animation, is where Doom will get the auto image and reflect status, and will cast Force Field, which will negate one of the 8 elements. Shock is a non-elemental based magic attack, so we don't need to worry about what element Doom negates here. We just need to worry about his Demon Rage attack. And I think Cyan's wearing a Snow Muffler, so I don't even think that'll be a problem, even if he connects a few times. So again, this fight's just going to take a little bit. But Christopher Workin is not in any real danger anymore of losing this fight here. Arusta, meanwhile, going to go grab this next dragon there. Maybe has some spells to learn. Maybe he wants some more levels. Yeah, he's not level 40 yet. And remember, we have to fight the statue bosses inside of Kefka's Tower. The maximum level scaling in this flag set is 50. So Christopher Workin's bosses are all level 50. Arusta's are not, because he's going to be at 17 checks after this dragon. And 17 times 2 is 34. And half of 17 is about 8 or 9. So at worst, his bosses are going to be level 43. So slightly lower bosses for Arusta than for Christopher Workin, but it's not a huge... 8 levels or 7 levels is not a huge difference. Yeah, Demon Rage only doing 325. Normally that hurts a lot more. But with Cyan having the Snow Muffler on, the best physically defensive piece of armor in the game, it's not a problem. And that is Doom down. So that's statue boss number 1 for Christopher Work in there. Fortunately, Gold Dragon is taking another victim in Gogo there. So Gogo having a string of bad luck in this seed. Gogo is every enemy's punching bag. All right, another dragon there for Arusta. And they're going to go into the tower the quote-unquote normal way. So you can kind of see the difference between the two here. As Christopher Walken's going to save at least 5 to 8 minutes here by skipping over the front half of the tower. Oh, God! Magimaster at the Guardian spot. This is nightmare fuel. However, we do have Berserk, thank goodness. So Magimaster's biggest weakness is he is susceptible to Berserk, which means now Magimaster can't cast any spells, including that wall change that makes him immune to basically most attacks. So nice heads-up play here from Christopher Worken, knowing his boss weaknesses, and this shouldn't be a problem. If he did not have Berserk, Grand Train is still a non-elemental defense-ignoring magic attack, and then Gogo has Sword Tech 7, which is also a defense-ignoring attack. Celeste has Pummel, which is also a defense-ignoring attack, so we might have been able to get through this. It just would not have been nearly as easy as it is now. The one thing that is interesting about Magimaster in Worlds Collide, we have an option to turn off his final counterattack. So in the vanilla game, Magimaster will cast Ultima upon death. In the randomizer, since we are never guaranteed to have access to Life 3, we took that out of his battle script because that would be incredibly unfair and would basically be a sort of soft lock for the game, right? So Magimaster does not cast Ultima upon death. However, that is an option that you can turn on if you are sadistic enough. And that will also morph into some other spell with the ability scaling. We also fixed a ton of different bugs in the base game, like how the physical evade stat basically doesn't work. We did fix it in Worlds Collide so that the physical evade stat does work, which means Magimaster can't get hit basically from the fight command because he has huge high physical evade in the vanilla game. Alright, so we got Spicy Chicken here, the namesake of our flag set at the top of his own lane. So even though the statues could have been shuffled, they are vanilla in this particular case. And Poltergeist, very high magic defense, very high physical defense with that auto safe, and can cast Stop, but hilariously is also susceptible to Stop. We don't have it on learned on any of our characters. I did see Stop on an Esper somewhere, but it just must not be in this party here. Does counterattack basically every time you attack him, and has some extremely powerful spells that he'll cast on his own turn. So no slouch here in this particular fight. But we do have Grand Train, which does ignore magic defense, and oh my goodness! Out comes Goner. This is one of Final Kefka's moves. So this is that elemental ability scaling I talked about earlier. That's a move you don't normally see regular bosses do, and that definitely hurt a lot. So good on Christopher Worken for queuing up that Cure spell. Very cool anime style spellcast animation, but our characters are pretty high level. Now, Poltergeist has probably around 30 to 35,000 HP at this level, so it's going to take a few turns to kill him here. And I think Arusta, correct me if I'm wrong, chat, he has overloaded one of his parties, so he is looking to use a 4-person party to go through Kefka's tower and then potentially walk through it a second time with a party of 2 for the side statues. So this is a strategy that some runners will employ in order to make their Kefka's tower much safer than it normally is, at the expense of it costing a little bit more time because you have to go through the tower twice instead of just once. But you're hoping that the amount of time you save in the boss fights offsets the amount of time you lose walking around through the tower a second time. All right, so Quest for Workin just has one more boss to go. And you sort of see here the power of the skip, as Arusta has to do all this shimmying and shenanigans in order to get his group in place. Meanwhile, Quest for Workin just warped into the tower at the point that Arusta is going to be going on at the moment. And thank goodness he actually picked his whole party for this middle lane, because we, chat, know what is here. It is the Magi Master. Make sure you give our runners a follow on Twitch. That's Questifer Workin and Arusta. They're the ones putting on the show. I'm just talking about what's happening on the screen. And we have a Vanilla Goddess here. So Goddess actually has pretty weak physical defense, although Sword Tech 7 ignores physical defense anyway. And we can actually steal a Minerva from this boss, although we had our chance, and unfortunately Gao did not succeed. So this is probably the easiest of the statue boss fights, with Mog having access to Sword Tech here, although he's going to have to be careful because he does not have a Thunder Shield, and Goddess basically counters most attacks with Thunder, and then will take another turn on her own. So we could get the 1-2 Wombo Combo Punch. Thank goodness Mog has those running shoes on. Otherwise, we might be in a lot more trouble here. Showing off the power of Sword Tech 5. Healing himself and damaging the boss in the same turn. So this is not the fastest way to kill the Goddess, obviously, but he's going to do it. Magi Master, not a problem for Arusta there. Nicely done. Uh-oh. This might do it here for Mog. Our speed has run out. Oh my goodness. Come on, Mog. There we go. Really nice fight there from Questifer Workin. Using some really effective strategies there on a couple of the bosses. That Flame Saber on the Doom fight, and then the Sword Tech 5 there on that Goddess fight. Yeah, I know, chat. I paid for the whole seat, but only needed the edge in that fight right there. And Questifer Workin will be our first runner-up to face off against Final Kefka. We have access to Mute, we have access to Instant Death, and we have access to Calmless Protection with Fenrir. So we have all the tools we need, and we have pretty high levels, so I think this will be a relatively quick Final Kefka fight. However, Kefka is the great equalizer, and anything can happen. So I'm going to predict a 7-minute and 16-second Final Kefka fight here from Questifer Workin. Chat, if you'd like to get in on your guess, as you think, if you think how long Questifer Workin will take in this fight here, and we'll start the timer when the boss loads up. Meanwhile, Arusta going after Poltergeist here. So one of the interesting things about this fight is Sword Tech 6 has a chance to cast Stop as well. I mentioned that Poltergeist is weak to Stop. So if we had Go-Go back up, again, theme of the seed, right? We had Go-Go up, and using Sword Tech 6, there's a chance that we could get stop on Poltergeist. 1:17:51 is our start time here. So we'll see how long this takes. Tier number 1, 3 different parts. This is sort of the armor check of Final Kefka. So they all do physical attacks most of the time. The head is weak to fire and will death counter with Quake if it's the last thing alive, so we normally want to take him out relatively fast. That longer arm there in our front is weak to instant death, so Sword Tech 8 will cleave off that long arm, and then the balled up fist there will basically counterattack every time he's attacked. So we just have to be careful that our party is not too low of health when we attack them, because if we have a party member that is dead during the transition from one tier to the other, somebody comes in off the bench. And normally in the base game, this isn't a bad thing because we've been using a bunch of different characters throughout different points in the seed. But in Worlds Collide, we essentially have our 4 characters, and we don't really use the other ones in the party. So normally that's a pretty bad thing if one of our characters gets left behind. So we'll see what happens here to Quester for Workin. We have a lot of AoE attacks and a lot of not targetable damage, but thankfully we did kill the head before we killed the balled up fist here. So this is not going to be a problem heading on to tier number 2, the Quester for Workin. Arusta, meanwhile, is going to head back into Kefka's Tower, going to split up his party into 2 for the Doom statue, 2 for the Goddess statue, and then the lone gal will just be able to run up the middle and hit the save point at the Poltergeist spot. That's tier 1 down for Quester for Workin, heading on up to tier 2. Tier 2 is a 4-part tier. There is a enemy in the back, all the way on the left side of the screen, named Magic, and he's hilariously susceptible to being muted, and he only casts magic, so that renders that part of the fight useless. So we'll see mute come out. The middle part there is called Tools, and it's weak to instant death, so we will see Sword Tech 8 take care of that. The blue guy that's sort of next to our party there on the right, he does physical attacks every turn, and he'll death counter with 10 physical attacks, called 10 hits. And the tiger that he's sitting on top of is weak to ice, and it is the one that deals a bunch of nasty spells and nasty status ailments on our party, including potentially zombieing somebody, which could be pretty catastrophic given the fact that we have a Sword Tech user and he might kill everybody in the party here. So we're not out of the woods yet. There's still some pitfalls that we can get into here in this part of Kefka. So the order of operation is, let's kill Tiger first, then let's kill Hit, and then Magic is last after we've instant death Tools, because even though Hit is kind of annoying, he isn't really going to kill us unless we have very low health, which would probably not happen. Unfortunately, we got 2 out of our 4 party members frozen here, and again, the only way to unfreeze them is to use a fire spell. So we're going to have to hit ourselves with this Tre Fuego here in order to undo that status ailment. We could also wait an inordinate amount of time, but we're gonna unfreeze with the fire spell here from Cyan. So in Worlds Collide, similar to the base game, there is a damage cap of 9,999 damage per action. Thankfully, Sword Tech 7 has 4 actions in 1 turn. So we do see Mog doing about 12,000 damage per turn. So Mog is actually able to break that damage cap. And that's one of the things you want to look for in a build here when going through Worlds Collide seed. You want to look for something that could do more than the damage cap in a single turn. So that's why we're using Sword Tech 8 here in lieu, Sword Tech 7, excuse me, in lieu of some other tactics. Now, the Boots and Horn and Aura Lance could also potentially do more than quad 9s in a single turn if we do like a 4 jump, right? But Sword Tech 7 will do it every single time. Hit was killed with the 10 hits, so now we just have Tiger left, I think, besides Magic. Magic will death counter with potentially a quarter, and then up to 2 instances of Dispel. But hopefully by then we would have killed everything else. There goes Tiger. So the quarters and the Dispels don't really do much. Alright, so here's the Dispel. And since it's a death counter, that means that Magic no longer has that muted status. It's basically how it goes, is when you die, you get rid of all your statuses and then do your counters. So that's the only actions that Magic rather took the whole turn, or the whole time, except for his first turn. Next up is Tier 3, so we've got 2 targets. Sleep on the left, absorbs all elements, has 9,999 HP, and will both heal and bring back to life the other part. So we want to kill that part first. The second part, when he's under 10,000 HP, we'll start using Meteo on every turn. And oh my god! That Windy Wind, that William Wind Esquire, reducing our party to fractional damage there. You hate to see it. I wonder if Christopher Walken's going to burn his Mega Elixir here. It doesn't look like he is. He's going to save that for the next part of the boss. So yeah, we want to take down Girl first, and then we have to take out Sleep. Sleep has 40,000 HP to start. When he gets under 10, may counter with either Train, which mutes and blinds your whole party, or Meteo, which does devastating non-elemental damage. And will death counter with up to 2 instances of an instant death physical attack, which is mitigated by something that mitigates physicals, like having the image status on your whole party, which is why we see the Fenrir cast come out for Mog here. Meanwhile, Arusta onto Phase 2 of Doom here. Unfortunately, Phase 2 of Doom gets Reflect, so Locke feeling the wrath of Reflect there. One thing you can do, and this is also a really nice heads-up play from Arusta, is if you cast Reflect on your own party and cast a spell on that person that's reflected, it doesn't matter what the enemy has, it will still work. So really nice heads-up play there from Arusta. And we got another Windy Wind on the party. This is potentially trouble, but thankfully, Mog does enough damage to have Calmness come out, and with the image status, that is 2 whiffs in a row, and we're up to the final part of the final boss, Kefka. 62 and change HP, 62 and change thousand HP, excuse me, I should say. We'll cast Fallen 1 on the first turn, unless we deal more than 30,000 damage, which I don't think is going to happen on just one turn here. When he gets under 30,000 HP, Kefka starts to counterattack with either Hyperdrive or Havoc Wing, which are single target attacks, and it's the best physical and best magical attack in the game, respectively. When he gets under 10,000 HP, he may counter with Ultima, which would be a problem on our party if we didn't have so much HP. Ultima does like 2,500 damage per target. But with the amount of HP we have, we could tank a single Ultima here. He will not counterattack during his charge up for his move called Goner, which we actually already saw Poltergeist use, funnily enough. So we'll be on the lookout for that here. And here comes the Fallen 1 that reduces your party to 1 HP. So we have that Mega Elixir queued up right away. Although Mog is going to potentially put us into counterattack phase, which would not be good here. Thankfully, we got the Mega Elixir. So now what Christopher Walken is looking for is there is a dialogue text box, the screen starts shaking, and that's when Kefka is in the phase where he can be attacked without a counterattack. So out comes Hyperdrive. We now know Kefka is under 30,000 HP. Here comes the text box. So this is the time to hit Kefka with everything we got, break our shields, do the biggest damage attacks we can, because he will not counter. And time is on the first flash. We should probably see time pretty soon. I don't know if we're going to get a Goner off here or not. It depends on how much damage this Grand Train does, to be honest. It might finish the fight right here. And that's going to do it. 1:27:54 is the official race time. Get your GGs in chat for Christopher Workin taking home the W in this matchup here. All right, so it looks like Darkness did a little math. We have a 10-minute and 3-second Kefka fight, so I was off by a couple of minutes there. GG's Christopher Workin, welcome to the stream. How are you feeling?
I am overjoyed.
Excellent. You ran a fantastic run here. Lots of really interesting stuff to dive into. So let's talk about the strategy for Poltergeist Fury flag set. Do you have sort of a strategy here behind it?
Kind of, sorta. So obviously Y remove comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
The Coliseum goodies come into play. So it all depends on the starting characters. And kind of what the abilities are and all that came into play. When I saw that Cyan had Shock, I'm sitting there going, that's a good candidate for Coliseum for goodies. And if for nothing else, cash. But with Mog, that gives him at least an end game build, if nothing else. And if not, a great early game build. Because with Sword Tech and Cyan, that's a great end game build.
Yeah.
But an Aura Lance, Dragoon Boots, and a Dragon Horn, that's good early game. And so, once I did Dome of Dream, I transitioned. But there was just a lot of you have to be adaptable. And transition stuff on the fly. And that's what I felt like I did here really, really well.
Well, unfortunately, you couldn't transition Go-Go off of the floor for most of the game, and I noticed Gao also sat on the bench for a little bit with his not so great abilities that he had this game. So,
yeah,
tell me a little bit about your other party composition once you got past. Oh, I'm going to unlock Sword Tech, and I'm going to get a really good build for my jump here.
Yeah, so. Gao is the worst character in the game. I hate Gao. Gao can just go away.
We're gonna fight after this restream. No, I'm just kidding.
So Gao is a pure gamble, and I don't like to gamble.
Yeah.
So if he lands, he's great, but he doesn't land very often.
Yeah, and at that point, I don't think you had a lot of the Espers with really great spells on them yet to be like, okay, well, at least I can make him a caster, right? Exactly. You didn't have that option.
Exactly. So I'm just like, okay, he's just going to eat up inputs, make him go away. And I had to sacrifice somebody for Kefka Narsh, and Go-Go was the best choice. Yeah. And when they were Doom Dragons of all things, he was both of them. It was either a 2 or a 1 set of Doom Dragons.
Yeah, that was the most wild set of Kefka encounters I've ever seen.
And at that point, Go-Go was just so far behind. It was pointless.
Yeah.
He became the bearer of the Moogle charm.
Yeah.
And that's all he was good for.
Well, sometimes you need a character to soak up some of those punches, right? So
exactly, and that's all he was good for. So
did that sort of change your strategy into, well, I got to go find more characters because I have 2 dead weights on my team here?
Exactly. At one point, I was so far ahead on Espers. It's like, I know where I can go to get Espers. I need to find characters. So I specifically only went to checks in which characters were at least a solid possibility.
Right.
And I shunned the checks where Espers,
like Magitech Factory,
like other things where characters could not be.
So you ended up getting your unlock at Hauser's mansion, and then you were trying to turn to go somewhere, and you got grabbed out of the sky by surprise Kefka. Were you planning on doing just 2 extra checks for Skip anyway?
Yes,
or was that
yes,
sort
it
of
was.
a good news type of thing?
Yes, it was. That was. I'm like, I was gonna go do Opera Dragon and then go do Tunnel Armor, and the fact that I got hit pulled out of the sky, I'm like, heck yes, this is a bonus. Save me time. This is a time save. Thank you. Especially when it turns out to be Kefka in the air, easy boss. Please and thank you.
Yeah. So that makes going back to get the economizer make way more sense to me. I was like, what? Why is he going back to get the 3rd economizer? But if it's to get the check skip, you definitely save more time. That
that economizer that I went back to get underneath
Lone Wolf
was because I got Realm, and she was a lore was a lore ability with Grand Train, and at that point in time I only had 1 economizer that I had on Celis. So that was go get Realm online.
That's right. You didn't get the 3rd until you got it from the Opera House Dragon. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight 2 really good heads-up plays that you made in Kefka's Tower. So the first was the Doom fight. Your carry got frozen, and you decided, well, Locke doesn't know any fire spells. However, he can use something that can tickle my characters with fire. So that was a really cool play. And then the Goddess fight with Sortek fight, saving your bacon.
Yeah. So the Flame Saber move, that's like, yeah, let's try it. Let's see if I can get it to proc fire and unfreeze. And the fact that it just did it anyway, I'm like, bonus, works for me. So I was happy about that. And then Goddess, I was considering I should have in hindsight moved some stuff around, give Mog better better magic resist. But you know what? I knew going in he was my sword tech user. He had Empowerer. As long as he didn't get one shot, he was literally invincible.
Yeah, it came awfully close there. The fact that you had running shoes on definitely helped out with making sure that Mog took a turn before Goddess got their turn after their counterattack, sort of thing.
Yeah,
right? So
exactly.
It was the right build at the right time.
Yeah. And in my practice, I've always had trouble with the statues, no matter how much power I had. So the fact that I one-shot all of the statues this go around was just practice paying off.
Nice. So out of the 3 flag sets, which one is your favorite? Which one is your least favorite?
Goddess is my least favorite. At least from the old school ones where you had Overcast and going. I haven't played all of the new ones in depth as much as I have this one, because this was my first one. This is the one I practiced first.
Yeah.
But to my recollection, Goddess is the one I like the least.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like Overcast in lieu of like dying, but I think having the armor instead of either the relics or the weapons is kind of like the thing I don't like about Goddess's flag set, because it's harder to find damage there, right?
Especially, yeah, exactly.
Especially when you have no fire and ice magic. That's like, okay, thanks, game.
Yeah. It's like with relics, hey, I can find an experience egg. I can find an economizer. I can find all this other stuff. And, an experience egg is great because levels equal power.
Right, right.
All that kind of, and you can find all the good.
Oh, no.
What happened?
Oh, that's a triple quarter. I think we've got Merton protection, though, between the Minerva and some of the elemental shields we found, so we might be fine.
Okay.
And where's up in the air, so we're good.
Where's Arusta
at? We are heading into tier 3 now.
Okay.
So I think you guys are pretty even throughout most of the seed, but Doomgaze got both of you guys, but got Arusta a little bit worse. And
Yeah.
I think you were just more efficient with your checks. You got to 21. Arusta only got to 17, 18, 17. So that was basically the difference. Is just being slightly more efficient with what you got.
Okay, good to know. So good to hear practice paying off.
Yeah. So you got any other things you want to chat about before we finish up with Arusta's part of the fight here?
Oh, let me see where. Who's his final party?
So he has Go-Go instead of Realm. So did you get hit by a Grand Train, or was that part of Realm's natural?
That was part of Realm's natural kit.
Yeah. So Arusta got Realm much later than you did, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, so Arusta was at 9 Espers and 5 characters, whereas you were at 9 Espers and 6 characters. So for you, right, you got Realm earlier and could make that trade. It makes sense to Go-Go. We were talking about Go-Go a lot during the stream of the positives and the negatives of Go-Go. Having access to Sword Tech unlock with Go-Go makes Go-Go great. And we could have even used lore on Go-Go if we really wanted to, or we could have unlocked, Bum Rush with Blitz if we really wanted to, because Celeste had Blitz, right? So we could have gone a lot of different ways with Go-Go. The problem with Go-Go is their stats are usually pretty trash. You can't really help that out except with gear. You can't use Espers, so.
Yeah, Go-Go is great utility, but his stats are just garbo. He's good early game, and in my opinion, but trash later.
Yeah. Yeah, I think having Cyan as sort of the utility character for the parties this seed kind of nerfed the utility aspect of Go-Go a little bit, right? Because Shock, as you mentioned, great early game, not so much later on, as you found out with the Doom fight that took forever and a day.
Yeah. Shock carried me early, especially on Cyan, where he doesn't have the natural magic stat.
Right.
But it did its job. If I were to change one thing, I wouldn't have put Cyan alone. Against the statues, I would have swapped out Realm, or Celis. But honestly, but the fact that I'm going up against Magi Master at Guardian spot was just wow.
Yeah. Thankfully, Arusta, even though they did not get skipped, they sent their whole party in the tower up the middle for a double clear out, basically. So the Magi Master was not a problem for them because they had their full party there. But that could have been pretty devastating. And unfortunately, we got the Meteo counter followed by the Meteo turn there. And it looks like, as is the case with the rest of the seed chat, Go-Go is dead again.
Go-Go just can't help tank the floor, can he?
No. Go-Go has been face down for the majority of the seed. So I want to thank you, Christopher Workin, for volunteering to be on Restream with your race. We can't have these fun broadcasts without the runners, so thank you. Appreciate it. And
I love doing it.
One soon.
I love doing it. So, as long as the opponent's up for it, I'm down every time.
Yeah, and also thank you for being flexible with me. I had a commitment at 8 o'clock today, and most of the other people that set up the restreams for Worlds Collide are all either on vacation or away. So
how dare they?
We had to move it around. Yeah, a time off, a break. What's a break?
I don't understand. Yes. I don't understand.
But yeah, so appreciate your flexibility here as well.
Yeah, no problem. It actually ended up working out better for me. So, all right.
We will catch you later. See ya.
All right. See ya. Bye.
Out comes the Fallen One here from Final Kafka, and we've got our Mega Elixir queued up. Arusta here is going to be using Realm with Grand Train, so pretty good bench character for this fight here. No worries, Glue. Just drive safely. I don't envy you having to drive through that part of the U.S. It's very boring. I've done it once. I drove back to New York from Colorado. So it's not quite Texas to West Virginia, but it's kind of the same in the middle, right? I went through I-70, I think it was, or I-60 most of the way until we got to a place where we can go up through I-70 into Ohio, and then 80 and 90, doing all the fun stuff here. Goner coming out here for Arusta, so we'll be able to tank this, and even if Cyan accidentally pushes Kefka into Ultima phase, we have so much HP on some of our characters that it doesn't much matter. So for newer runners, normally this is the part of the fight where you start to get worried a little bit because you don't want to throw Kefka over to his counter phase, but for Arusta, it does not matter. Get your GGs in chat for them. 1:44:01 is their final time. So Christopher Warkin is going to take this heads-up match, and that'll do it. We'll see if Arusta wants to do an interview. Let's see. And we'll see if they decide to come in here. So that is the tournament of the month. It's based on the Warring Triads flag set from a few events gone back. It's a really fun set of flags. It's definitely a little bit more challenging than the sort of more standard race flags that we do around here. But I think that that's what it is. So if you're new to Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide and you enjoyed what you watched and you want to get playing for yourself, ff6worldscollide.com is our website where you can find a link to a page that you can generate your own seeds for your randomized seeds. I suggest doing the Moogle Cup flag set, which is sort of our beginner flag set if you're just starting out. We also have a link to our Discord, and that is where you'll find some cool people that will definitely help you out with your first runs or twos. We have a lot of people that are willing to help. We have a mentor program where you can get one-on-one coaching time with an expert from the game, or a video review if you're a bit antisocial and would rather just have somebody watch you and do some critiquing and commentary on it. There's also a lot of resources on our wiki that both link to a lot of vanilla guides, because again, as I mentioned, you need vanilla game knowledge of Final Fantasy VI as well as randomizer knowledge. So the randomizer knowledge you'll find in the wiki and all over the Discord, and then the vanilla knowledge will be the same thing. I'm going to try and get Arusta in here, but he is saying that that the invite link says expired. So if we cannot get him in for an interview, then we'll sign off until next Wednesday. Oh, here we go. He is here. Third time is the charm for the interview link. Welcome in, Arusta. GG's on your run.
Thank you, and GG's to Questfer as well. I don't know if I think he might have left, but interesting.
Yeah, he's still in the chat. So tell us a little bit about your strategy with a Poltergeist Fury flag set. You know, sort of, you get the relics for the drops, you've got the fire magic, you got the Dragoon set early on if you want it.
Yeah, so I intentionally wanted the Dragoon, especially starting with Mog, so you know you're going to have someone who can equip good spears. I intentionally went for the Dragoon set early, and if you saw me buy a bunch of garbage items just as I was going through my normal shopping, that's also something I kind of like to do if I'm going to the Coliseum, just hoping that I find something useful. Beyond that,
it turned out not to be. There was not very much useful in the Coliseum in this seed, unfortunately. But the real reward was the boots and the horn and the aura lance there.
yeah, and then beyond that, just trying to get fire magic early, which we got, but then really just had some trouble finding that last character.
Yeah, so this seed gave us a lot of espers. It was very linear in terms of our character progression. Both of you ended up basically doing the same set of checks. We did not see what was at Opera House. We did not see what was at the back of the Magitech factory. So that we, lock either South Figaro Cave or Phoenix Cave may have led to another character, or there might have been another character in those other two Celeste checks. We just don't know, because by the time we got Celeste, right, we kind of had all the espers we really needed, more or less.
Yeah, and I mean, I thought about Opera House when I went to the Gao check, but I always find Opera House is kind of annoying because it just feels kind of inconsistent in terms of how many skips you get, how many enemies you end up fighting. So I figured I'd just go with the Gao check, knowing that I needed more levels anyway. So that's why I did the Serpent Trench.
Mm-hmm. Isn't there like a movie quote, if you could dodge a rat, you could dodge a ball, or something like that? That's not how it goes? I'm sorry, chat.
Something like that.
Yeah, so really nice strategy as well to go into Kefka's Tower with your full party and clear out just the middle path with your full party and then split it up 2 and 2. Were you always planning on doing that, or did that just come up because you felt you didn't have enough levels when you went into the tower?
I felt like I needed a couple more levels, and I also felt like just with the way my party was set up with, primarily fire magic, as well as bio, which came in handy, but primarily fire magic, that like if that Mog, who was my primary physical damage dealer, ended up being on the wrong one, and like everybody, and I had Poltergeist with only 2 characters that were basically relying on fire magic.
Right.
Just knowing, and that's the interesting thing about the Warring Triads / War of the Magi now flags, is just that the statues are going to be rough. There's not going to be a easy one. The Poltergeist is up there somewhere, Doom's up there somewhere, Goddess is up there somewhere. So I like to be a little higher than I would, if it was just up for grabs, could be, leader or something.
The 3 Ultrases. Yeah, no, I totally agree with you there. Especially as you mentioned, your party composition, right? Even if you had fire magic on all of your characters, right? There's a potential where Doom Phase 2 becomes a problem, which you had a really creative solution of using, Reflect to bounce the fire off of your one character and onto Doom for the second phase of it, right? So really nice heads up play there in that part of the tower as well.
Yeah, because I thought about, just having Cyan Shock, which is probably a little less damage than the Reflected, or at least similar, but then Celeste would have had nothing to do, so figured the Reflect strats would at least keep both my party members busy.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this was the tale of the dead Go-Go. Christopher Workin ended up leaving Go-Go on the bench because they just could not stay alive during a lot of the fights. Brought Realm in with the Grand Train, and you also lost Go-Go to the counter Meteo and then the turn Meteo there on tier 3 as well.
Yeah, and I actually, when I got Go-Go, I really thought about swapping him out for Realm. Had I realized Realm had, useful lores, I definitely would have, but just, it was late enough in the seed and that's why I kind of paused for a sec, because I thought like, okay, well, if I swap in Realm, but then I'm like, well, if all of her lores are useless, I don't think I'm fighting enough battles to make her, to teach her a whole lot of magic. So
right.
I'd rather have a slightly weaker Go-Go that I know is going to be useful, rather than, if Realm had just had Blowfish or whatever, and then whatever minimal magic I could teach in the remainder of the seed.
Yeah, that makes sense. That was one of the Quest for Working got Realm way earlier, relatively speaking. Still wasn't very early, but way earlier than you did, because you got Realm when you had 9 Espers, whereas I think he had only 7 when he picked up Realm, so it made way more sense for him to swap Realm in. So, but it was good to see different party compositions. It shows, right, Worlds Collide is pretty versatile. This is a fairly linear seed. I thought it was going to be not so linear, because you ended up getting one character early and the other one got Gao early. Were you the one that got Gao early, or did you get
I got Gao fairly early, and then he was useless.
Yeah.
Stealing tools.
Yep. So, unfortunately, gonna not take the win in this particular matchup here. However, you still have several other matches to go in your little pod for the tournament of the month. What flag set, I guess, are you looking forward to playing, and which one are you not as much looking forward to playing?
If I remember right, I believe it's Doom that has all the nice weapons. I always kind of like the Doom seeds, just because knowing that the dead checks are almost all useful. I mean, I guess there is Magus Rod on the list, but even then, like, you know, it's not awful. It's at least a good stat stick.
Right.
That one I always like. And then, honestly, Goddess's Edict is the one that I always find kind of the worst, is just that so many of the dead check rewards, since it's all armor, is like, you don't really need armor a lot in Worlds Collide. Like, it doesn't hurt, but, like, just not super useful.
Yeah, and it's obviously much harder to damage people with. You can't throw your snow muffler at them, right? So yeah, and then also, like, Bolt is, there are a lot of enemies that are weak to Bolt, but it also feels like there's a decent amount of enemies who are resistant to it. So losing out on fire and ice magic is kind of shaky as well. Yeah, the mechanical bosses certainly are weak to Bolt, which is really nice. It's better than, say, the Doom flag set where you only get ice magic and you leave out the fire, which most bosses are weak to, and the lightning, which the mechanical bosses are weak to. But yeah, the two of those things combined, for sure. But yeah, so anything else you want to chat about before we let you go here? No, just thank you very much for the restream. Definitely thanks to Drinks Glue for coming up with the idea for this War of the Magi. It's kind of a cool idea. So looking forward to continuing the rest of the matches and seeing how things go. Yeah, I really enjoy the level magic tier idea. That's a very clever concept for sort of an ongoing monthly tournament to keep things fresh, but to also have that, you know, overarching leaderboard always in the back of your mind, right? So it's really, really cool. And thank you as well for volunteering to do your race on Restream. I know that we had like sort of I needed to reschedule it a little bit because I was busy at this certain time. So thank you for being flexible as well. I appreciate that. Absolutely. Have a good night, everyone. All right. Catch you later. And that'll do it for us here at Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide on SpeedGaming. Thank you, SpeedGaming, for letting us put on a show for you tonight. Hopefully you all enjoyed in the chat. And we'll hopefully be back next week on Worlds Collide Wednesday. Peace out, everybody. Catch you later.